Hey, it's Amy Lewis from the KFBK Morning News along with Brandon Hafley from Catalyst Mortgage. Is the holiday season a good time to buy a house or a good time to refinance a mortgage? That's why Brandon's here to answer those questions. So, is it a good time?
You know, it really depends on the market. And I think there's a common misconception that it's not a good time to refinance or to sell. And, recently I've been speaking to real estate agents here in Sacramento. And, believe it or not, it is a good time to sell. Most real estate agents believe it's a great time because there's the same amount of buyers out there, but a lot of people pull their home off the market right before the holidays.
Yeah.
The same amount of buyers that are out there looking, want to actually get into a home. Some of them want to get in the home right in the first of the year, so they'd start looking in November, December, but then the sellers disappear. So with that happening, what ends up happening? More competition for those listings and potentially even a higher price.
I have to tell you, we sold our house in December of 2000 because we were moving down to Los Angeles, and just gonna tell you, our house sold in about 12 days, so it was a good time for us to sell. So it's like you can't really guess which is going to be a good time or a bad time. When it's time for you to sell the house or time for you to get a mortgage, it's just time.
Well, exactly, and I think it's important, especially markets. I mean, Southern California market might be different than Northern California and vice versa, but it's talk to a real estate agent, ask the questions. What are homes selling for? How many listings have, been taken off, in the past, 30, 60, 90 days, because that will affect what you're going to be able to get as a seller with potential buyers.
Can I ask you a question about President-elect Donald Trump?
Yes.
Specifically about refinancing a mortgage, and people are concerned whether the rates are really going to go up or if they're going to go down. And I think a lot of people are feeling, even the people who were a little tentative about Mr. Trump coming into the Oval Office, they're feeling a little bit better now based on his incredible business history. What do you think?
Recently, since the election, we've seen interest rates increase roughly 0.5%.
Right.
Costs on getting the same rate, you'd have to pay several points to get the same rate you could have 1 month ago.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at historically, we're still lower than we were at this time last year. So we're still in a great position. But touching on two things, refinancing at this time is a great thing because right now interest rates might be going up. If the Fed does increase, it's not going to be a big increase, but you will start seeing an increase in rates over the next year and a half potentially. The flip side is, what does that do for, with interest rates going up, with the Trump administration, what is it going to do for our economy? Well, again, mortgage regulations are so tight, this really might ease guidelines, and it might actually make it to where, investors will lend more based off of the assumption that they're not going to have recourse on certain products that are still guaranteed by the government, but that they really wanted to stay away from just with how tight and how restrictive everything was.
So how much did the rate go up? You just said it was a half a point?
0.5%.
Half a percent. Okay,
so
so
in the last 30 days.
What's your feeling for the next 6 months? And I know you can't, foretell the future. Oh, that'd be great. What do you think?
Interest rates really are dependent on data, and it used to be just specific at-home data. Now it's really global, data.
Sure.
Depending on what happens in Europe, what happens in Italy, just in general, there's a lot of things that can affect it. But I will say that I think we've seen such an increase in the last month that I really think it's going to stay around where it's at. We might see some spikes, but again, depending on what happens, some pullback. But again, I think it's going to stay around this general area. I don't think that in the next several months we will go back to the rates that we had.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We're still in the low fours or high threes. For 30-year fixed. I mean, it's still a phenomenal rate.
And as a consumer, we don't have to be overly concerned about what's going on in Japan or Italy or overseas markets. That's your job.
Definitely.
You have to be concerned about that, and we have to rely on you. And getting back to the holidays being a good time, whether or not to buy a home or to refinance a mortgage, if it's your time, it's your time.
It is. And one thing to keep in mind, though, if you are looking to purchase, you need to talk to the mortgage professional that pre-approved you in the beginning, because interest rates going up 0.5% can actually eliminate your purchasing power. If you're buying a $400,000 purchase for $400,000 home, and interest rates are went from 3.5 to a 4,
right,
and your debt to income ratio is tight, meaning what your income is versus your debts, to qualify for that loan, maybe you're not going to qualify for 400 anymore. Maybe it's going to be 350 or 325. So you really want to make sure that you're speaking daily potentially to your mortgage loan officer to make sure that you know where your qualification is and that you're secure.
And you lock in.
And you lock when you can.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. That's a Catalyst Report. Thank you so much. I hope we've helped you get a little bit more savvy when it comes to buying a home or refinancing a mortgage. For more information, all you have to do is go to catalystmortgage.com.